Okay.
After we find out why you're not wearing your 49ers shirt today, then that's what we're going to find out.
There
We're
you
going to
go.
drill you on this sumbitch, goddamn blue bastards. What are you, a Democrat?
No, I'm taking a knee. I'm taking a knee. Yeah, I'm taking a knee.
Okay. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to Buster's Corner here on YouTube. We are doing another video with Brother Tom. Hey Tom, how you doing over there?
Good morning. Good morning.
Got Tom. We're on a what do you call these damn things? Zoom meetings.
Zoom
Yeah.
call.
Ever since we started this race, I've been on more Zoom meetings with you. I've never been on a
You
Zoom meeting
see,
with anybody but you. What the hell's up with that?
I bet you never seen so many PowerPoint slides in your life
I
before.
haven't. I'm PowerPointed up to my neck with this shit. All right, what do you got here? Motec version 7.6 update content. Tom Hogue, no association with iRacing or Motec, just some guy playing a game.
Just some guy
Yeah,
playing a game, having fun.
fairly good at it. Fairly not so good. All right.
Yeah.
So
All
so
right.
the video I did the other day on the setup, I showed them some of this. I gave them some idea what was going on. So let me back out of here. Oh, by the way, people, today the Niners play the Rams. Go Niners. As you see, I got my red shirt on. Tom's playing it neutral over there. Got his engineering shirt on.
Well, hold on. So, you know, if you're going to get into the game as a 49er fan, you have to dress like an LA Rams fan because they were literally checking your where you lived, and if you lived in the Bay Area, they were denying you tickets. So you had
Really?
to get somebody's local address to buy a
Really?
ticket and then sneak in. Yeah, they literally were blocking San Francisco fans because
I I heard
yeah,
it was like 75% Niners going to LA.
yeah, and so they didn't want that because what happened was the Niners fans got too noisy for the Rams the last game, and yeah. So, anyways, it's funny.
Too funny.
It is a real rivalry between the two towns. Yeah.
All right. Let me get our pictures up out of the way here and go ahead and let you run with this. I'll mute myself and we're just going to sit here and listen in. Go ahead, bud.
Okay, so Bob already introduced me. So, if you notice, there's I took a focus on context and simplicity here. So we're going to go over some context. We're going to go over what I mean by context and show you some new views, or I call them the track views, and then some additional interesting updates. So context is key. It turns out on a lot of different stuff I used to work on, but uh, in order to get a great setup, right, you need to know how much, how fast, and where. So, for example, if somebody says, "Hey, my car's loose," and if that's all they say, then you got to start asking the questions. Well, how much is it loose? And basically, where is it? And how fast are you going, right? Are you lifting for the corner? So context is key to get a great setup. Um, so hopefully by now everybody's been following and using my Motec workbooks because this is an update to the workbook. But as I started looking back and reflecting on it, these screens have been really largely about how much, right? The ride heights are how much. Yeah, we got some context going, a little bit of context going in our little, um, uh, if you will, the shock travel over here, the ride heights. But it hasn't been really enough context. So let's take a look at going back to our shock histograms or suspension histograms, really is what they are. And I know everybody loves these, right? Because everybody's working so hard to get these little pretty pyramids. And these histograms started giving us context about how fast, right? We talked about how much, how fast. And so, but they were, I don't really like them, to be honest. I'll be brutally honest. I don't really like these histograms. I think they're lacking. They're not really working too well for us. Even as much as I try to put in, our shock settings, try to help them along, but yeah. So let's dig in a little deeper to what these things are really giving us as a review. So in order for me to show you how these track views work, I have to get you to understand how to read them. So please slow down. Don't stop the video. Keep watching. It'll be worth it. I promise you. So hopefully everybody knows about this slide because it was in my shock video. I promise you, if you have not watched the shock video, go back and find it on the Buster's Corner. It's worth the time to do that so that you can understand what's going on here, right? We talked about the nose and knee slope. So
Yeah.
if we
Hey,
come
hey Tom.
back,
Hey Tom. So
yep,
I'll put that at the end of the video at the end screen will be the link to the shock video for everybody.
okay, good. It's worth it. All right, so if we break down, let's take another look at this histogram and break it down a little more because this gets really important. So in that shock video, I described how we had these three regions, which is the nose, knee, and slope. And these regions map directly to the shock settings for the low speed being the right here, the center peak and the colors, high speed being the knees section, and high speed slope. But if we look at this bottom row here, right, what's implied here, and it gets lost as we start playing with the shocks, is these are velocity regions. And velocity, I say, okay, shock is traveling how many inches per second. And that's what these bars represent, are samples of those times. But we have no context about what's going on around the track. But yet we can map these out. And I always look at things differently. And this is one of those times where I had a different view of what we're dealing with, right? So let's turn this whole thing upside down. So this dark colored region is a low speed, typically is a low speed region, but it actually blends between the low speed and high speed. So I'm defining the low speed region as 0 to 2 inches per second. Now, with that said, somebody's going to call me out and say, Tom, how'd you get 2 inches per second? So the low speed region actually varies based upon how you have your low speed and high speed settings set. In the histograms, we have, I think, a typical about 1.5 second region we define, which is an arbitrary region. But either way, know that there's a tight correlation between the low speed and high speed settings anyways in the shock. If you change a high speed shock setting, you're going to see an impact to low speed as well. They're very tightly integrated. And it has we talked about the shock video, how high speed just drives a lot of the settings in the shocks. But anyway, so now let's map this over here in this cool little color stack chart, right? So what I have is you have a bump region and a rebound region, and you have once again, I took the 0 to 2, right, in the green, and then so that's the low speed region, and then we have a high speed region, 2 to 4, or 2 to 6, if you will, and then 6 to 10 is our high speed slope region. Okay, so we literally took that and said, okay, now we can look at it in a different way. This is where it gets really cool. So we can take the shock travel velocities, and we can create this new view, which is the track report view, map the shock velocities as we're going around the track. You can see where now we have different shock travel velocities occurring, like on the backstretch. There's a bump there at Kansas that always shows up. Okay. We can see also in the green, if we have too much green here, we know that we are too tight. So be careful here. The green doesn't necessarily mean a good thing, but it also tells you that the car's shocks aren't just whipping all around either, though. So, right, they're relatively pretty happy. So let's dig in a little deeper into this, right? So if we zoom in into that backstretch where that bump is, right? And we have our little stack. Well, we can see this red zone here is at a plus 10 on velocity. That shock has just hit a big old bump. And then the green area, once again, is that shock is moving at a slower velocity. It's a low speed. So here's what we want to pay attention to. This view, what is really cool about this view, and it's got me all fired up. Let's take a look at the right here, this blue band here that we see. This blue band hitting somewhere between -4 and -6. But if you notice, we go from green to blue to green, which tells me that I had the correct damping here for this region because I caught that bump. I come in here, come closer as I'm heading towards that bigger bump, go to this orange band. Once again, I go from green to orange to green. Again, I caught that bump. But when I get into this one where I'm going dark blue to dark red, I did not catch this bump. So I'm going to be looking at, right, how am I managing these higher regions? And that tells me I'm dealing with a high-speed slope setting for both bump and compression and rebound, or as in the histograms they call them bump, right? Because they didn't use so many characters. This is where that gets really cool. We can see where I'm catching that bump and where I'm not. As you go around the track now you have a perspective of how that shock is traveling. So once again, now we have how fast and where where our shocks are performing and where they're not. I have clearly an opportunity here to come in and clean some of this up. I'm going to remind you once again, if you have solid green all the way around, that's not necessarily a good thing, right? What I think is good here is when you get these single bands popping up and then you go to green, that's when you know you caught that bump. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to start to change gears a little bit here, because now that we have this concept of how we can get a view of these shock velocities, okay? A shock or suspension velocity is about those shock. This view is giving us how fast that shock is traveling up and down. But there's another factor to the car, and that's the roll. And the roll, these next gen cars where you don't have to, but you probably want to have that rear ARB attached so you can get some good rotation, because these cars don't have the track bars, so we needed more rotation. What we need to be looking at is the roll velocity. How fast is that car rolling over from right to left? And so we can measure that with our roll velocity telemetry. And what you can see here is I've created this track view of the roll velocity. So you can see where the cars is unwinding here in the red. I call it unwinding, and then winding back up. I kind of think of it as a twist, right? How the car is twisting is a roll, and how fast it's twisting. We don't want that car rolling side to side, whipping back and forth. We want to have that car rolling smoothly into the corner and rolling smoothly out of the corner. And so I've kept these colors at the same spacing as I did the shocks, so that maybe you could leverage some of these numbers as you start to tune the roll velocities. You'll know which way you want to maybe look at. You want maybe use some high speed slope in there or not. Now, how you tune these roll bars in, I haven't gotten into that, but it's important to get into, make sure that we can start to see how that car is rolling back and forth. So this concept applies again to the roll bar, to how that car is rolling, right? I do want to tell you, you don't want the dark red or the dark blue. That means you're just whipping that car back and forth. As Bob and I were talking earlier, this here spot here, maybe that's where I'm actually turning the car in too hard and I'm ripping that car to one side and doing some driver input error in there, right? So this gets really cool in how you can see that car twisting in and out of those turns. Once again, dark red, dark blue is not a good color here. That's where you're going to start to break the car loose. Okay, so now you have I took that concept that I did with the roll velocities and the shock velocities, put them in track view. Now we can start doing cool things with it, right? So Bob previewed already the tire heat map as you go around the track. You know, the darker the colors are at the extreme. So the dark blue is a low number here. These are not velocities; these are temperatures here. And each of these new track views I'm going to show you, they'll have their own scale, and those scales will change based upon the range of the data at the time you do the track. So, but the idea though is blue is low, red is high. So we can see where now we get a higher temperature reading on that tire as it goes around that corner of that track. And by the way, so just to touch back, there is a difference between what we are seeing for the most part in telemetry is the carcass temperatures versus the tire surface temperatures. And I think I would expect that we may see some evolution from iRacing on some of those readings. I think when we saw this last update, for some reason, I think it was the outside of the front tires were reading a little bit different from the inside and middle temperatures. So pay attention to that. Just to let you know, on the Motec, all I'm doing is I'm reporting those temperatures up. I'm not even doing any calculations on them. So if the numbers don't look right, we'll try and keep chasing it down, and hopefully iRacing telemetry will get cleaned up. But for the most part, they're looking good. Okay, so now we can keep going through and start giving us more contextual views using track views. So here's a downforce where we can see now where our downforce is high and where our downforce is low. You can see in this corner here, I'm losing a lot of the downforce in this corner here. And maybe I want to go back and take a look at my rake and ride heights. I still like my diffuser volume. And so the diffuser volume here shows me that maybe I need to come back and take another look at those ride heights and rake angles, see if I can improve that diffuser volume, get it a little bit better where it needs to be. And maybe that is a good range, but it gives me an indication of what it's doing around the track.
Hey, Tom.
All right. Yep.
Go back to that last sentence right here. So, and go back one more. Okay, downforce. Okay, so interesting thing here, as you see this with the next gen, right there where your car is, you don't have good downforce, right? Through that whole blue section. Now go to the next screen. But your diffuser is not in too bad a shape compared to the downforce. You don't need downforce to have good diffuser volume, correct? I don't got to be 1 inch. You don't have to have a lot of rake to have good diffuser volume.
Correct, not always. So so on that diffuser volume, the charts that I showed you, right? As I said in the diffuser video, they are a different way to look at your ride heights. And what it does, I use them as a way to tell me when I'm choking those ride heights off, getting too low with them. So on here, I would go back and make sure that I'm not going too low on either the base, the diffuser base, or the diffuser wedge components to that total diffuser volume. Or you just go back and make sure you're not bottoming out with your ride heights, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot for people to grab a hold where before the update we wanted like a 3/4 to an inch of rake in order to get the car to move. You don't need the rake. Actually, I see the rake 0.2 compared to a 0.1. But I found that as long as the diffuser volume is a good number, rake almost becomes irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a big change, right? On I think it was Tuesday, we got the update where now we have to go back and relook at those numbers and make sure that we're getting these numbers optimized. And so I was trying to I went back and double checking. Okay, so is our downforce number still holding true? Where we would all look for that pretty curve, and we know when what I was looking for is our cars getting faster, showing a negative downforce number, and so far it's been holding true. And so and we'll keep watching that and modify the calculations based on if the iRacing models get us out of alignment.
All right, full steam ahead.
Holding true. Yep.
All right, full steam ahead.
All right, so on the roll, because I like details, and Bob tends to not like my little scatter diagrams. So not to scare everybody away, but this one is down in the suspension details page. So this will give you an idea of, okay, so you have the 4 panels are ride height versus roll velocity. Then you have the roll, how much roll you actually have in the car. You can see the car rolling in and out of the turns. And then the roll rate as it goes, it accelerates here and it settles down. And then a center rake to see if you're losing pitch in the car. So one of the ways, by the way, cool ways to use these histograms and the velocities is you see this green box. What I do is I will actually take this green box and shrink it down, and then I will drag that little box as you along this little lap, and you'll be able to break that lap down into little segments and see how the car is performing. throughout the track. So sometimes having the entire lap highlighted doesn't really tell you the information you need on these detailed pages. I mean, once again, I'm going to encourage you, shrink that green box down and drag along the track, and then you'll see where in a spot where these little red bars all of a sudden pop up in a specific portion of the track, right? So that's if you like these little techie widgets. I think with the track views now, you don't have to really worry about waveforms and patterns anymore. It gets real simple to use Motec from a car setup perspective. And other little cool things I added. So from the garage, I started dropping in little static bits of information to give you context, like on this engine dyno page, right? I dropped in the rear gear and the final gear that you're driving. Some people are driving Kentucky, for example, in fourth gear. So it gives you an idea when you go back and compare laps or setups. So yeah, so look for those little static with pieces of information that I've dropped in some of the pages. And then on the garage, I've added the rear ARB arms that took a little bit to figure out where they were hiding that guy. And then on the center of gravity widget here, now I added the white lines for the PowerPoint presentation so you can see, but you want to pay attention where your center of gravity is at. And so for example, I just want to call it on center of gravity height. That is based off of an assumed number to give some reference point relative to what you're working with from setup to setup. So it may not be exactly accurate from an iRacing model perspective, but it's still close enough for us to get a baseline and judge out how we're doing on shifting our center of gravity between setups. So like I said, why I like this page so much is I hated taking notes. And then every time I'd go from one setup to the next, I'd go, okay, what was my config? I lost it. I had a fast lap and I changed it and now I can't get back. This allows you to get back. So you can get back to those fast laps that you want to go back to. So we maintain the workflow, which is a lot of people are using this workbook. So I didn't want to just disrupt all the workflows you guys have all been created. Going forward, I'm leaning towards more simplified views. While I still, at the same time, still like the detailed views, and those I'll try to bury and go look for those. But we're trying to lean towards where, let's start taking the complexity out of Motec and make it easy to use. Hopefully, this little update will do that for some people. So that's all I got. Bob, are you still there? Did you wake up? Wake up! Wake up!
Dang it! I hate when you do that to me.
Always fall asleep on my presentations.
Who wouldn't? Just kidding.
Yeah.
Actually, can you go back to one of the first slides at the very beginning where you had the whole Motec thing up there? Back. There, right there, stop. I want to call out this left front inner tire on here.
This guy right there.
What's going on there?
Well, so that we saw that drop on the last update. And so what I did was I dug in a little deeper on that one. And so for some reason, we're not getting the same update on that inner tire that we were before. And it may or may not be accurate. I think iRacing broke that variable.
Yeah, I know it's not accurate. So.
Right, and so I went in and I said, okay, I took another look. I spent a lot of time on it, actually. I was able to go back and pull off specifically the variables that iRacing sends out in telemetry, and those variables don't change like these are. So I think Motec is pulling off of those variables and maybe there's another variable there. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
The data that come in, I'm just trying to pull in the data from Motec, and I think they broke it, plain and simple.
They updated it, huh? Is that what they're saying?
We got the update.
We got the update. All right.
So when they fix it, it should start feeding better, and maybe it needs a little more runs. Now that it could be accurate, but the camber settings have changed so much that tire that portion of the tire is actually that cold. But we'll see. Remember, it's a carcass temperature. It's not a surface temperature. Although
okay. So maybe, and looking at the right rear, maybe that's what's going on too, because the cameras have changed so much.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The other thing I noticed too, when I look at think about the update, you look down at the bottom of the screen, where it's the next gen downforce, and this one here sitting about 1400 on an average. The old sets, I think, we're running 1480 or 15, so definitely lost some downforce on the car. Or you're not putting as much rake in it to get the downforce numbers there.
It's the rake. So that would represent the rake. So I don't pull any data out of any iRacing models. So that data is calculated based upon a surface area and an angle of inclination of the body to the ground. And so that's what I was looking for, checking with some of the folks and how, if that tuning was still working, or whether or not they were saying, I was looking for to see if people were saying, oh no, I'm fast with negative rake or negative downforce, right? So when that downforce number drops to negative, you've actually lost your rake. That's what that reflects. And that is your noses, your front ride heights are now higher than your rear ride heights. Most likely that's what's affecting that. And so then the question I started asking, well, is that body have enough in the iRacing model? Does the body have enough of a downforce coefficient that it can sustain a negative ride height rake angle? And so far, what I'm getting back feedback from folks that I've been talking to is no, in fact, that they, as long as they tune that to the curve, they keep getting faster. I suspect that, well, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what people see. So let us know.
It's still a first week. It's still a first week, and we've only got the one track we built in so far. But I mean, looking at the left-hand side of your columns, right front ride height, where you are in the track, 1.14 to a 1.77. That's a lot smaller number than what we used to run. So definitely some big changes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. You got anything else for us? Good presentation.
Nope.
This is some awesome shit. Especially the whole shock thing. I swear to God, because I could not do that histogram for nothing. And actually, I don't. On my setups, I take whatever Matt Holden's doing on his setups. I leave them there, and I might adjust the low side because that what do you call it, whack-a-mole, is just a bunch of horse manure. But looking at this diagram here, and that's a good example right there where we did not catch the shock. And the blue one off to my right, I can see, we caught like you said, we caught the bounce. That's not a big deal. You're going to get you're going to get those at different tracks, depending on how rough they are. But like you said there, I got a dark blue going into a blue going into a dark red. That's a whole lot of lost speed sitting right there. And actually, I think that's going to line up with that dip in the downforce that we saw on that.
Yes, it does. In fact,
it does, huh? That's exactly where it went.
That red line matches exactly right where we lost our downforce, right?
And if you look at, and watch this, you're graphing the right rear shock on that car, right? So that right rear tire just went poof in a manhole in a hole and so the left front probably popped up and lost your downforce.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the ways I would do this is as you start to tune this and you know, okay, you got the bumps and you catch them, right, which is good. Then you can go back to the green area and know, okay, I have room to actually now go back to use my low speed settings to optimize my handling. Because how we used to do in the tours is I had a really good shock model in my head, and I would take any setup and I could tune those shocks to where I got perfect handling, and the car would just get fast, right? When you dial in your shocks, you get fast. And so we needed to get better about how we're tuning our shocks with these next gens, because there's just a lot of speed we're leaving on the table with them. Now, here's another point I want to call out is there's a lot of really good racers in iRacing, and these guys have been, real race car drivers. They can just go into a setup and click, 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 right? And I think it was Steve Strittmeyer, he said, hey, Tom, can you show us how to use them and all that? And it clicked on me. I said, a lot of these guys have been doing this stuff for years. They're not geeky like me. They don't want to see wave patterns and curves and histograms. I think you're like you threw up on those things every time I started showing them to you,
Like that stupid
right?
scatter scheme you
Yeah.
got. What do you
I
take,
mean,
a shotgun to that frigging thing or what?
Yeah.
I can't read that crap.
And so Steve Schumer got me thinking, you know what? Maybe we just need to come back and just make this stuff so much easier for people to look at and go, okay, I understand this. This is easy. I don't need to. There's no waveform patterns here, right? The only tricky thing was to make sure that we can actually map these colors to something we can deal with, right? And we can because of that shock video. I'm going to say it again. If you haven't watched my shock video, go back and watch it. You'll get it. You'll get why I can do this. If you don't watch that video, you're going to say, Tom, you're full of it.
That's
You
what they call
cannot
must
give me a
see
color and tell
TV.
me that maps to a shock setting without watching the video.
Yeah,
You're going to think I'm
must
smoking
see
crack.
TV. Must see TV.
And no, I'm not. But I get accused of, people have a hard time when I think differently and I share those different thoughts. But like I told a boss one day, I'm never wrong. I'm just right too early. I'll wait for you to catch up. So
Blah 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 blah.
this is one of those times. This is really cool stuff.
But the coolest thing about this, right, what you've done is if you go back and think, what is Buster's Corner?
Yeah, my boss, by the way, did not appreciate that comment.
No, I wouldn't either. Blah blah blah. Go get a glass of wine. What if you think about Buster's
Are
Corner?
you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sitting here talking, didn't push the button. You couldn't hear me.
You got to push the button.
I forgot.
You know.
Okay, stop. Listen. Okay, so what is so awesome about this right here is that what Buster's Corner is based on is the free setups, sharing information, making the playing field more level or leveler for the average guy. Because when I came into iRacing, if you weren't in the click and you didn't know somebody that was going to help you build a setup, you had to buy a setup. So and the ease of what you're doing here with this stuff makes Buster's Corner that much more legit and validates what we're doing and helping people build setups on their own.
Yeah.
Blah,
Like I said,
blah,
I'm
blah.
just playing a game. I'm just playing a game and having fun. So
right,
it
let's
needs
get
to
out
be
of here.
kept light. All right.
Let's
Have a
get out.
happy-
We're out of time.
happy
It's
football Sunday.
It's after 30 minutes. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, share. Please like the videos down below. If you like the videos, more people will see it. You can join us on Facebook. I'll put the links down below. And once you get into our Facebook, you can join our Discord channel. If you don't have Facebook, email the YouTube channel here, and I'll send you a Discord link if you don't have Facebook.
One last thing. This release is posted on my GitHub page, and people can go get it now.
And I'll link that down below in the comments, the GitHub link to Tom's stuff, which you'll find all kinds of stuff up there. That's all I got. Go Niners, huh? The game's at, I think, 3:30 this afternoon.
Yep.
It's Super Bowl or go home.
There you go.
All right, buddy. See you later. Thanks for watching, everybody. Say hi to Bob, Tom, and Bill on the racetrack. Happy race day. Bye-bye. And we're out.
So I thought that was way better than just to show the track view.